Hello again, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Kerbal Space Program 1.2 for absolute beginners. Today we are setting our sights outward. We are going to leave Kerbin, and we will either be going to Eve or Duna. And I'm thinking Eve because it's a much bigger planet than Duna. It has a bigger sphere of influence, it's easier to hit, and then once we get into the atmosphere, we are sure to be captured. Getting off is a completely different story though, but we are not going to set this particular mission for getting back home. It's just to show you how to do an interplanetary transfer. We're going to take something very small, a one-man pod, and then because of Eve's very thick atmosphere, we really only need just the Mark 16 parachute to help us through. It may not hurt to put on a heat shield, so that will be in the looking for the heat shield. You gotta be around here somewhere. Thermal, the 1.25 heat shield here. Then we will put a decoupler, just a stack decoupler to get this by itself. Just in case that we need to change our orbit just a tad, we'll add a small fuel tank with a Terrier engine here. And this will allow us to make small minor changes to make sure that we will always have power here. Some solar panels might not be a bad idea, and that will keep the 50 electric charge constantly updated for us. Now we also want to separate this guy again, and now we're going to need a transfer stage, and the best medicine for a transfer is this engine right here, the Nerve atomic rocket motor, because of the specific impulse in a vacuum, 800 ISP in a vacuum, which will definitely help us get out to Eve. And now we need something to get this out of the atmosphere, so let's go big or go home. We will put another decoupler on here. It will automatically put that fairing. Now let's get an adapter here, and let's go big. Let's get a big orange tank on this guy, which is down here. That orange tank should do the heavy lifting for us. We also need an equally powerful engine, so the mainsail will do the lifting. And now we want to sort of use some asparagus staging to help us leave the planet. So let's get some of these big hydraulic detachment mods, make 4 of them. And now what we would like to do is put on some very big fuel tanks, but not as big as the orange tank, but equally as impressive. Let's see, I think we can actually fit another one under here, can we not? We can. So we've got those guys going in. We need some aerodynamic nose cones for the group. We would also need engines. And I believe, since this is a gimbling engine, we can use the Reliant to get better ISP down here. Might not hurt to put on some struts. That is in your structural tab, like that. Sort of just strut the engines up here. And now what we would like to do is we need to run some fuel lines, and let's turn off symmetry. We want to run you to you, and then we also want to run you to you, and then we will do the opposite on this side. So fuel lines here to here, and then from here back to the main rocket. So essentially, just like our first rocket with fuel lines, these will drop first, and then these, and then we will be left with this big section here. Next thing we would like to do Let's see, we need some aerodynamics, I believe, as far as some winglets go. And we will put 3 of these guys here. Like that. That will help. Ooh, that looks nasty. Let's do 4 then. And this will help sort of steer this main section. And now we need to make sure that this decoupler and this decoupler unhooks first. So we've got all engines firing there, and then we need to make another stage where this decoupler, see, this decoupler, come on. Just let me pick one, please. This decoupler, yeah, there we go. That fires and that fires. Awesome. So these engines will fire, then these 2 will drop off the side, and then these 2 will drop off the side, and then ultimately we will separate, and hopefully we'll be in the atmosphere by that time for our nuclear engine to take hold. Let's just name this Eve, and then we will save it because we're not launching yet. What we actually want to do is exit the Space Center, and we want to go to the tracking station. What the tracking station allows us to do is see where we are in relation to Eve. Now, I looked up on the internet, and it's easy, just Google Kerbin escape or Kerbin transfer, and you'll come up to a website that tells you where these planets need to be relative to one another, and Eve needs to be 54 degrees behind Kerbin. So if we were to draw a straight line from Kerbin to the sun, we want 53 degrees behind, and Eve is going to speed away. So this tells you right here why real-life space agencies wait a good while to launch spacecraft, because if they miss their window, they're waiting for a whole nother year or 6 months or even 2 years until the planet gets back to a point where it is easily accessible. Now we're just doing this for efficiency purposes. You could launch at any time, but you will be spending a lot of fuel trying to catch Eve and a lot of orbits just waiting around, not doing anything. So it's better to come out here to the map view and just wait for Eve to get in its proper placement behind Kerbin, so we can use the least amount of fuel possible. Now, essentially what we are going to do, and you will see this in practice, we will be launching this way. Much like escaping Minmus and returning home, we want to drop back to our parent body, the sun, but along the way we are going to drop into Eve's orbit. Conversely, if we were going out to, say, Duna, we would wait for Duna to be in front of us, then we would launch forward along Kerbin's orbit to send our orbit higher up to meet Duna, just like that. So it looks like Eve is nearing its proper placement. I don't actually have a compass here, so I can't measure exactly where 50 degrees is, but that looks good right there. We'll stop it there. We'll head back to the Space Center. We spent 2 years essentially waiting for that transfer to happen, but now we are ready. Let's go to the launch pad. Let's find Eve, and we don't want Jebediah to be lost forever. Our bold, intrepid pilot Maela will do that for us, and we will launch the vessel. Standard launch procedure, we still want to be launching toward the 90-degree marker. However, I don't think we'll need as much thrust to get through this time, so let us see what we've got. 3, 2, 1, go! Half throttle right here. I'll go ahead and start pitching over just a touch. This is a pretty big rocket, so we don't want to shake, rattle, and roll this thing. Our struts are holding our side boosters well, and I think we want to hold this about right here. These fins will sort of try to keep us pointed in the right direction, and we are about to lose our first set of engines along the side. Right here. There they go. Booster reacquired. The fins sort of point us back in the right direction, and we're picking up more speed. Remember, we want to use this mainsail to get into orbit and perhaps even get us out of Kerbin's sphere of influence. That would be ideal, and let this nuclear engine really start doing the work. All right, let's go prograde. Let's turn it along its side so we can start picking up some forward momentum here. We're starting to see some aerodynamic effects, but we're in the thinning atmosphere, so no worries. And let's drop those. Let's sort of point the rocket down more towards the 45 and hold it there. Back to the map view. We're at 31,000 meters and growing. We're pointing right on that prograde vector. Excellent, that's where we want to be. We're right on the 90 as well. Let's see if we can get some more lateral speed here. These fins are doing wonders, helping us. The rocket's kind of bobbing and weaving. This is a pretty long rocket, and it's just this hatch that's really providing the torque for us. So the engine is gimbling us, and there we go, and then point along the prograde marker here. It's the fins sort of counteracting the atmosphere. All right, 100,000 meters, that is good. Let's go to a maneuver node out to 100,000 meters as so. Make a nice circular 100,000 meter orbit. Let's go ahead and get back to the maneuver node, and it's going to be a 35-second burn. So we'll be launching about 17 seconds or so. Once this thing pivots enough, and we'll go ahead and extend our solar panels as well. We don't want to run out of electric charge. The mainsail engine there does recharge the batteries, but it's better to extend your solar panels when there's no atmosphere to worry about. And here we go, we're lined up. We will time accelerate up to 17 seconds remaining. 19, 18, full power. And we will have more than enough thrust, it seems, to circularize our orbit and even leave Kerbin's sphere of influence, which is good because that nuclear engine doesn't provide a whole lot of thrust. It goes for a very long time, but it doesn't push very hard. So if we want to escape Kerbin's reach, we need an engine that can really push us forward, and this mainsail is the one that can do that. All right, let's throttle down a bit. 60, 50, 40, 30, 20, and 10, and cut. So there we go. We will time accelerate to calm the rocket down. And now we need to plan our maneuver. And imagine this was Minmus, and we are trying to get back to Kerbin, is the way to look at this. So because Kerbin's orbit is moving this way, to the right, we want to launch back this way to drop our orbit down to meet Eve. Now, Eve is going to be hauling the mail and about to pass us. Ideally, what we want to have happen is for us to drop our orbit and meet Eve right here on the very periapse. That would be ideal. Let's see if we can actually get it to do that, though. Because we want to take off this way, of course, we want to start firing on this side of the planet. We want to add maneuver, and we want to speed up once more, and we want to make sure that we are leaving against the grain here. All right, let's adjust our timing. Crap. That's the bad thing about zooming out, is you don't have the precision that you would normally have in placing maneuver nodes, so it's a lot of backwards and forwards and speeding up. When we zoom out, we can see what we're doing, and we've actually gone much too far. Let's set Eve as our target and pull our maneuver node back out. We actually don't want to be moving that fast. We want to be moving out, and you can see the triangles of our closest approach here. 2.4 million here, and as I scoot this back, we lost it a little bit. Keep on going. Come on. All right, we need to finagle it just a little bit. You can see here, because we're close to our descending node, that our orbit is, decent right here, but as we go above it, we will actually be climbing above, or we'll be climbing above Eve's orbit. Or we'll be going below, I'm sorry. So what we need to do is we need to increase our maneuver node, and then, let's see, we don't want to be speeding up. And then we want to raise up. We basically want that descending node right on that yellow orbit. So we'll slow down some more and change, and then slow down some more, and then change, slow down some more. It's just a minor change. Essentially what we're doing is placing our descending node as far forward as we possibly can along this grid, or along this orbit. 417, so much closer. We essentially, whoops. Let's go up and then back. We almost got an encounter there, so let's not give up. Keep on raising and pushing back. Almost got it. Almost. Let's go back, and there we go. There is our Eve encounter, a periapse of 83 million in its sphere of influence. Once we get closer, we can actually make changes and shorten that up. But right now, a 20-second burn is good enough, and we're 12 minutes away. Let's see if we can wait until the daytime to come back around so we have some solar power juice. And then we will point to our maneuver node here. Go time acceleration off. Point to our maneuver node. The rocket is turning very slowly, but it is going to get there. And we have 6 minutes for it to sort of point its direction that it needs to go. So no rush on time there, however. Now, I don't know if we have 29 seconds left of fuel in this section. Probably not, but we can get the majority of it burning, and then our nuclear engine will have a lot of juice. And this may be time that we experiment with the Oberth effect. All right, so here we go. We're almost lined up. And now we will time accelerate and launch at 15 seconds to go. All right, this definitely looks sort of odd. We're shooting more up than anything, but that's because of our plane change to get to Eve. 18, 17, 16, go! Give it everything you got, all you can get. And then we will quickly stage and change. And you see right there, our time dropped from just mere 30 seconds to 3 minutes for this nuclear engine. It's not pushing as much as that big mainsail was, but no worse for the wear. Now, waiting for this nuclear engine, you can hold Alt and hit your bracket keys to do time acceleration while the ship is firing. So if you don't want to wait the whole 3 minutes, you can do it that way. And then once we're close to the 30-second mark or so, we'll just use the caret keys to drop back down, and we will be all set. So burning away from Kerbin, really picking up some speed, and then we will see how we line up for our Eve approach, which makes next episode getting acquainted and landing on Eve, and then calling, I think, the basic tutorial series done, and then we can get into some career mode. All right, so that camera flip means we are leaving the sphere of influence here, and almost completely out of gas as far as that orbital change is concerned. There we go. So we have a little bit of fuel left in the nuclear engine, and then we have the very small engine here that can make the minor plane changes for us. If we take a look at our map, we can speed down here for 2 days while we exit Kerbin's sphere of influence. We are sort of off at a funny angle, and we'll see how that did for us whenever we leave Kerbin and enter orbit around the sun. So here we go. An hour until escape. 8 minutes until escape. And then out here, time acceleration doesn't feel like it's doing a whole lot. Space takes a while to navigate through, so just stick with it. So here we are. Do we still have our encounter with Eve is the big question. We, in fact, do not. So we can actually make minor changes here. Our closest approach is 365,000 kilometers. And one thing you can do to see how you're doing is, if you don't have RCS thrusters, you could just use RCS, but if you don't, you can right-click on this engine, turn the thrust limiter down to near nothing. That way you can get very minor adjustments. Come out to your main map, and then just say point prograde. And once you are prograde, just give it a little thrust and see how this affects your closest approach. You want this number to come down, obviously. So if we see 366, we cut the throttle and go retrograde. Right there. So now we know we need to actually turn retrograde. And that's why we dialed down the thrust of the main engine, so the little burn that we did isn't using much fuel, and we are not really losing our closest approach. So here we go. We keep going until the numbers stop going down. There may come a time where these numbers will stop going down and then start going back up, and that's what we want to see. We will kill our throttle as soon as we see these numbers start to climb. 62, 61, it's starting to slow down. But we are, in fact, getting closer, so we'll keep on thrusting. Fuel is only being used at 0.04. So this is why we really throttled the engine down, so we could get minute adjustments. All right, things are looking good here. Numbers continue to go down, which is good for us. It's better to make these adjustments out here than be, say, right here and trying to slow down or speed up for sure. Just watching these two come together. Essentially, we are bringing the approach back to the descending node, which this is where our orbits actually cross. So this is very good for us. The nuclear engine on 3% thrust at maximum, you know, it's slow, but it is efficient and effective. You won't overshoot with a nuclear engine. Let's actually use Alt time acceleration here. And then once we see, get your finger ready on the X button. We're doing the heavy lifting with this particular engine. Yeah, it looks like we went way too much and we're actually having to spend our fuel slowing back down, which is not ideal. Of course, there are people who can do this much better than I can, but this will get you in your ballpark. 181, 180. We got to be getting close now. That closest approach is coming down, and we're actually going to catch it much faster as well. Holy crud. I didn't expect to be this far off. It was probably more efficient to lower our orbit. So let's see if we can do that actually. Let's, looks like our orbit is going high, so let's go with our anti-normal. How much fuel do we have in here? Not much, but I think this will be more effective for us. We're essentially just barely shaving off kilometers when we can really do the work here and come down over the top of it. No, it looked like the other one was more effective, doesn't it? We're sort of bringing that back down. As long as we get within 100,000 kilometers, we'll be good. It's just fine-tuning this particular approach. And our next engine has more thrust, and it'll be a lighter spacecraft, so we can make better adjustments with the next section of spacecraft. Is 100,000 kilometers its sphere of influence? I wonder. We're almost there. 2, 1. Do we see it? No, 99,000 kilometers. We're really bringing that descending node back down for sure. Those orbits are coming together nicely. We essentially want the descending node right here at the closest approach. All right, the numbers are going back up. So now let's flip retrograde once more. See if we can reel these numbers back in. All right, so let's continue going retrograde. The numbers are dropping even more. 95, 94, 93, it's starting to slow down. We are really doing the work in getting this separation down though. There we go, the Eve periapsis. Looks like our Eve periapsis is 83 million. Let's see if we can get that to change a bit. If we can do our planning back here, it is way more effective than waiting until we get right on top of the planet. With just a few tenths of meters a second, we are changing by, you know, hundreds of thousands of kilometers for sure. All right, that's starting to slow down a bit. You can see our time in Eve is longer because we're passing close by quicker, and it looks like we're also slowing down. So that means we won't be flying by Eve as quickly, which is good if we want to actually go into the atmosphere. All right, how are things on my main stage? Still alive and kicking. 43, 42, 41, 40. We're bringing that right down. All right, it started to go up. Now let's see if we can flip anti-normal once more and bring that orbit down, because it looks like we're going to be passing over the top of it. So now we want to be coming down on top of it. So we're essentially in a polar orbit, and we're bringing our orbit right down on top of it. 32 million, 31 million. And even if we pass by Eve at this point, it would look like a very minor speck. And you can sort of see right here that descending node is coming down right over the top of Eve. And once that joins up, that means that all three, Eve's orbit, our orbit, and the descending node will be right on this planet. And essentially we'll be hitting the thing. There's 8 million. Okay, it's going back up. Let's see if we can retrograde once more and slow this thing back down. We're at 7 million with just a little bit left in the tank. So then it will be up to this poodle engine, or not the poodle, but yeah, the little poodle. No, not the poodle. The little engine to do the work. All right, 6 million, bringing it right down. 4, 3, 2. See the orbit starting to shift now. We're going to be passing by close enough that Eve is going to be flinging us away. 900, 800, 700, 600, 5. Okay, it was going up a bit. Let's see if we can adjust our anti-normal once more. This may actually increase because our descending node is here. Nope. Still going down. About 90,000, I think, is where we want to be, because Eve's atmosphere is very thick, extends really high up. All right, 74. That is good enough. So that will do it for me in this episode, ladies and gentlemen. Next episode, we will approach Eve, we will conduct the landing, and then we will EVA and plant a flag on our very first interplanetary transfer. So like, share, and subscribe if you are so bold, and I will see you when we are closing up on Eve. Take care.